To Medical Tutor. Today we are going to be solving biology Jamb past question year 2014. We have 50 questions in this video that is going to be fully explained with relative examples for you to understand, and it is helpful for not just Jamb students alone but also for WAEC preparing students, NECO preparing students, and every other national exams we have in Nigeria. So before we go on to what we have for today, please make sure you click the subscribe button and put on the notification bell so as to receive our further and future updates. Yeah, it's going to be very we are going to like our channel, our video, and everything. And one more thing, make sure you share this video to your friends and family that are in need of it. Don't keep it to yourself alone. Everyone needs a success. Okay, make sure you share with everyone, like the video, recommend it to your friends and all that are around you. Thanks for doing that. Alright, then let's move on to what we have for today. Question number 1. The lowest level of organization in living organisms is A, option A, organ, B, cell, C, system, and D, tissue. Now the first you need to know is that there are about 5 levels of organization in biology. The smallest of them all is the organelle. Organelle, ORGANELLE. Organelle. Example of an organelle, we're talking about everything that you can find inside the cytoplasm or inside a cell. For example, we have the mitochondrion. The mitochondrion is an organelle. That's the energy storage house that we have for the body. We also have the ribosomes for production of protein. We have the endoplasmic reticulum, the smooth and the rough, of course. We have the nucleus. We also have a lot of components in the body, autosomes as much as possible, vacuoles, food vacuole, water vacuole, anyone you can list. These are all organelles, and they are the lowest level of organization in biology. Now followed by the by the cell. When organelles come together, for example, when mitochondrion, ribosome, autosomes, vacuole, nucleus, nucleosomes, and every other stuff come together, they form the recognizable lowest level of organization, and that is the cell. So combination of organelles form the cell. Now another thing is this: the reason why most times organelles are not regarded as the lowest level of organization is because organelles on their own cannot function. So it is impossible for you to see a living mitochondrion or to see a living ribosome. No, they all have to come together to form a cell in order to be living. So that's why cell is known as the lowest level of organization, and in most cases you will never see an organelle being included. So the correct answer for this question number 1 is option B, cell. Now what about the tissue? When cells come together, cells form tissue. Amalgamation, that is coming together of a cell gives rise to a tissue. So one cell plus another cell, or two cells, give rise to a tissue. Whereas when tissues come together, when one or two tissues come together, we are able to form what they call the organ. Okay, able to form what they call the organ. And when two organs or more come together, we can form what they call the system. Alright, for example, the respiratory system. The respiratory system does not only contain the lungs, okay, it contains a lot of other things. We have the lungs, we have the trachea, the wind box, etc. We also have the nose. A lot of things are comprised in the respiratory system. That is a lot of organs coming together, although they are both different on their own, but when they come together, they're able to perform one of the most definite functions in the body. Another example of a system in the body is the digestive system, which is responsible for digestion. So you can talk about the stomach, you can talk about the kidney, you can talk about the intestine, you can talk about the rectum, the colon, and so on. All these things work together to form the system. Whereas when you're talking about the organ, it has to do about different combinations of tissues. Now this tissue might be acting in the same way or different way, but the cocoa is that when they are coming together, they form an organ in the body. So the lowest level of organization in the organism is cell, option number B. Now the second question, question number 2, which says, which of the following is the most complex according to their cellular level of organization? Which of the following is the most complex according to their cellular level of organization? Now let's look at the options. We have option A, option B is air, option A is earth, option B is air, option C is euglena, option D is hydra. Now, the first thing we need to talk about here is talking about the cellular level of organization. That is the highest among them, because we're being asked of the highest among them, the most complex, right? Now, let's start from the last option, option D. Hydra. Hydra is an organism. Yeah, you can also refer to it as an animal. It's not a plant, actually. It's not a plant, and it can be classified under the hydrozoans, the class hydrozoans in biology, and they are mostly tissues. Okay, they are formed by tissues. Now, if you look at option number C, we have euglena. Euglena is a cellular level organism, so it is just a single cell. Euglena is a single cell, and it's under the protozoans. Other than euglena, we have the amoeba. We also have the paramecium. All these ones are just one cell. You know, a single cell can live on it. So, you know, the other time I told you the lowest level of an organization that is known by people is the cell, and the reason is because the cell can stand alone, of course. So the euglena is just a single cell. It's a unicellular organism. Okay, it's a unicellular organism. Then we have air. Air is a tissue, yes, but it's a dead tissue rather in the body. It is a dead tissue, except some parts of the air, like the follicle and others. The rest part of the air is a dead tissue. That's why if you try to cut off your hair from your head when you go to the barbing salon and they cut your hair for you, you're not going to feel any pain because it's a dead tissue. There are no nerves there for pain sensation or anything. Okay, so we also have the first option, which is heart. Heart is an organ. Okay, heart is an organ. It is formed by the amalgamation of tissues in order to perform the function of pumping blood in the body for circulation. Okay, so heart is an organ. So let's look at it again. We have hydra as tissue, euglena as cell, air as tissue, heart as an organ. So obviously, which one is going to be the most complex according to their cellular level of organization? The correct answer is the heart, because the heart has the highest cellular level of organization here, which is the organ level. Okay, and the one that has the least complex, that is the smallest complex according to their level of organization, is the euglena, because euglena is unicellular, just one, so it is very, very simple. So that's the answer to this question number 2. Let's move on to question number 3. Question number 3: which of the following organisms is multicellular? Which of the following organisms is multicellular? Multicellular means containing more than one cell. Containing more than one cell. Okay. So option number 1, Chlamydomonas. Option number 2, Spirogyra. Option number 3, Amoeba. Option number 4, Euglena. Now let's go back again. First, Chlamydomonas is just a single-celled organism. A single-celled organism. Spirogyra is the amalgamation of different number of cells. So Spirogyra is the correct answer, but let's check the other option as well. Amoeba is a single-celled organism, also a protist. You know, I told you the other time about the euglena. We have the amoeba, euglena, paramecium. Those trio, they are particularly protozoans and single-celled. We have euglena, single cell as well. So the correct option here is option B, Spirogyra. It is a multicellular organism. It contains a lot of cells, and you can find it around the nooks and crannies of your house where the atmosphere is mostly wet. Okay, you can find them there. Alright, then let's move on to question number 4. In bryophytes, sex organs are produced in the dash. In bryophytes, sex organs are produced in the dash. First, you need to know that the sex organs of bryophytes, the male sex organ is called antheridium, whereas the female one is called the archegonium. Do you understand? So the first one is called the antheridium. Antheridium is similar to sperm in men. Okay, whereas when talking about the archegonium, we're talking about the egg in females. All right, and these sex organs are produced in the dash. A, protonema. Note, protonema is an early form of a bryophyte in their life cycle. It's more like the early stage of a bryophyte in its life cycle. We have the sporophyte. You should know that sporophyte is a kind of a reproductive part in bryophyte, but it produces spores. That has nothing to do with the sex organs. Talking about the gametophyte, which makes it so obvious as the correct answer. Gametophytes are the ones in which it is the stage in which sex organs are produced, the antheridium and the archegonium. Rhizode. Rhizode is a root-like hair. Yes, a root-like hair. You can also call them root hair cell. So they are used by plants for absorption of nutrients. Okay, so the correct answer here is option C, gametophyte. Remember what I said in the beginning, protonema is just the early stage of a bryophyte. Sporophyte is used for spreading spores all over the atmosphere. I think this part of also the life cycle of bryophyte, not just bryophyte, but most of the primitive plants as well. whereas the gametophyte is the one that bears the sex organs, the ateridium and the archegonium. So then let's move on to question number 5. Question number 5. Seed plants are the most dominant vegetation on land. Seed plants are the most dominant vegetation on land. Because of, now why are seed plants dominant, more available, abundant on land? Why? Now the reason is very simple. First, let's look at the options. Option number A, they are motile gametes. Of course not. No, they are motile gametes. There is no way their gamete is able to well, their gametes can be motile, but it's not motile in the sense that we are taking it. Motile means being able to move, okay, but they're not able to move. But because of air, maybe something like we have wind, we have humans taking it, animal dispersion, and a lot of things. Now their gametes are not motile. They are not able to move on their own, but they can be moved by other organisms or other factors in the environment. So the reason why they are dominant is because of their ability to disperse. There's no need to go through all this, the ability to photosynthesize, no, because they are not the only ones that photosynthesize. Non-seed plants also photosynthesize. Availability of water, of course not. There are a lot of seed plants in regions where there is no availability of water. Okay, so it's not because of water, photosynthesis, or motile gamete. It's because there are a lot of factors out there that is able to carry their seeds all over, because they produce seeds, of course. So for example, when you eat mango fruit, the seed inside, you are going to disperse it somewhere, okay? You are going to throw it on the floor inside the bush or something. The same thing with cashew and a lot of fruit. And by doing so, you are dispersing it. By dispersing it, these seeds will likely grow into another tree or into another seed plant again. So the reason why seed plants are the most dominant vegetation on earth is because of their efficient seed disperser, either by organism or by wind or by any other factor in the background, okay? So the correct answer here is option number C. Option C, sorry. Question number 6. Which of the following is an arboreal organism? Which of the following is an arboreal organism? So the first question is, what is an arboreal organism? You need to know that arboreal organisms are organisms. It can be plants or animals, but in particular organisms that spend their time, most of their time on trees. Not all their time, but most of their time on trees. So arboreal organisms spend most of their time on trees, angling up and down. One of the animals or organisms we have on trees mostly among this option are the birds. Of course, elephants stay on land. They don't hang around tree or anything. Fishes stay inside water. There's nothing that is associating them with the tree. Antelope also, just like elephants, they move around the bush. However, the birds lay nests on trees. They stay, they peck the tree, do a lot of things on the tree. So they spend most of their time on trees. Another example of arboreal organism that is not in this option are the spider monkeys. We have the squirrels. Squirrels likes to stay or hang around monkeys. We also have the leopards. Yes, of course, if you've watched a lot of Nat Geo Wild TV, you're going to see that leopards are often found on trees. They like staying there even when they want to eat. When leopard wants to eat, they like climb. They don't eat on the ground. They like climbing the tree. We also have lizards. We have snakes. Some snakes like to crawl around the tree. We have frogs as well. We have bats. Yes, bats, wall geckos, and so on and so forth. So arboreal organisms are organisms that mainly spend their time on trees. Not that they don't spend their time anywhere else, but most of their time is spent on the tree. So the correct answer here is the bird, option D. Alright, let's move on to the next question. Question number 7. I2/1, C0/0, PM3/3 and stroke 2, M3/3. Now, this general formula above represents that of dash. First, you need to know this is what they call a dental formula. Now, a dental formula is used to represent the number of teeth and the kinds of teeth present in an animal. Yes, let's use the word animal this time around because there are no plants related here. So this formula you see IC, PM, and M represents the kind and the number of teeth that can be found in an animal. Now, the I means incisor. Now, incisor is the foremost tree. If you check your teeth currently, check your teeth. You are going to notice there are 2 teeth in front of your mouth that are preceding others, and they are somehow sharp. Yes, you can check it. You see it there. That's what they call the incisor. Next to these 2, you will see the canine. Yeah, call it canine teeth. As you can see in this question, there are no canine teeth for this organism, so that organism does not have it. Now, the canine teeth is mostly used for tearing and biting, just like the incisor as well. Incisor is very sharp, it's used for cutting, but the canine can be used to hold, tear, bite away. Now it's not available there, so this obviously suggests that this organism or this animal does not likely feed on animals or flesh, because if it feeds on flesh, then it should be having a canine for biting, for tearing. The next one is the premolar. Premolar is the one that follows the canine, and the molar is the one that follows the premolar. The molar is also at the base of the teeth. Yes, that part of your teeth that is inside, and this premolar and molar is used for grinding. They are both used for grinding. So as you can see, the animal here in talk only has the incisor, the premolar, and the molar. It does not have the canine that can be used to eat meat. So technically speaking, it is not an omnivore. An omnivore is an organism that feeds on both flesh and plants, of course. However, it does not have anything as such here. Whereas talking about detritus feeder, detritus feeder are feeders that we can call them saprophytic feeders as well. Okay, we can call them saprophytic feeders too. The reason is because they feed on decomposing organic matter, dead plants and animals. That's why I call them saprophytes as well. They are very similar in the way they feed. So it's obviously not the option, because I don't think they need teeth, and these are not organisms that are essentially big or anything. So carnivore feeds on flesh. However, there's no canine here for it to devour the flesh, so obviously it's not a carnivore. And the last option here is the herbivore. Herbivore is the correct option because it does not need the canine for tearing or biting or whatever. It already has the incisor, the premolar, and the molar for grinding. So obviously, when you ask the question similar to this, always make sure you look at the preceding alphabet. In fact, the numbers are not really important, but if you see for example, look at the canine here. The canine being absent 00 means that it obviously does not have anything to do with flesh. Do you understand? So once there is a canine here, it means that the option is going to either be the omnivore or the carnivore. Now let's assume we have a C11 or C22 here. Now the only way you can distinguish if it is a carnivore or omnivore is based on the number of the canines, yes, and the incisor. These two will decide if the organism is a carnivore or an omnivore. Whereas once this is absent, then the organism is without doubt an herbivore. So the correct option here is option D. So then let's move on to the next question. Circulatory system is very essential in mammals. A circulatory system is very essential in mammals, but not in smaller organisms like amoeba. The circulatory system is very essential in mammals, but not in smaller organisms like amoeba, because A, amoeba lives in fresh water. Diffusion is sufficient to transport materials in amoeba. C, amoeba lacks blood containing hemoglobin. D, amoeba exhibits anaerobic respiration. Well, let's look at the question again. Circulatory system, we're talking about the system used for the transport of blood, of course. We have circulatory, we have digestive, we have the respiratory, like we said in the beginning. However, this time around, the circulatory system has to do with the vessels of the body, the heart, and every other thing that transports blood in your body. However, amoeba is not using it, and it's not very essential in small organisms like amoeba, because diffusion is technically sufficient to transport materials. The reason is because amoeba has a very small surface area, a large surface area and a small body size. Yes, the smaller the size, the larger the surface area. So amoeba has a large surface area and it has a very small size. So the transport of materials is very easily executed through the use of diffusion, and there's no need for passing of vessels or whatever. It's not because they live in fresh water, it's not because they lack blood containing hemoglobin. They don't even have blood in the first place. So there's no way they will lack a blood that is not containing hemoglobin. So with this diffusion, amoeba can release CO2 outside. We're talking about releasing CO2, just like in humans, the way we breathe out CO2. So they can release CO2 outside through diffusion, and they can also take in oxygen. And this type of respiration is known as the aerobic respiration. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 9. In vascular plants, the sieve tubes and companion cells are present in the dash. First, you need to know what are the sieve tubes. Sieve tubes are a component of the plant vascular system that aids in transport of some food in the plant. For example, the sugar. In fact, sieve tubes are mostly in charge of sugar transport. Companion cells help to regulate the transport of sugar. For example, let's assume sieve tube is the car that is carrying the sugar. Companion cells will help to unload the sugar from the sieve tubes. Like it will help you to remove the luggage, the load from the tubes. So they work hand in hand together in vascular plants, and they can be found in the phloem. Remember, xylem is used for transportation of water, so xylem can never be in the option. Cortex is the region of the plant vascular system. It's not part of the vascular system in particular. In fact, it's more like a ring or a structure, a part of the root or stem of a plant. The cambium is the same thing as well. However, talking about the phloem is part of the vascular plant that is used for transportation of food. So obviously, sieve tube and companion cells are going to be there in order to help in transportation of mostly sugar and unloading them. So the correct answer here is option D. Now the next question, question number 10. The stomata of leaves are similar in function to the dash. The stomata of leaves are similar in function to the dash. The stomata of leaves are in similar function to the A. Pharynx of humans, B. Scales of fish, C. Spiracle of insects, D. Trachea of toads. Let's start from the last option, or not the first. Pharynx of humans. Pharynx of humans is part of the structure you can find in the neck region downwards, and it helps in transportation or passing of swallowed food and fluids into the digestive system. You understand? We have the scales of fish. No, scales of fish are not used for, well, first let's talk about the stomata. The function is for respiration, like for passing out or exchanging gases. Stomata helps to control the exchange of gases like water vapor and CO2 between the interior of the leaf and the atmosphere. So the stomata is basically involved in the function of exchanging gases. However, the scales of fish has nothing to do with that. The pharynx of humans that allows for the passage of food does not have anything to also do with that. Let's go to the next option. Option C, spiracle of insects. Now, spiracle of insects does the same function as the stomata of leaves because it helps to control the intake and the outtake of gases in insects. For example, when oxygen is to be passed into the body of the insect, the spiracle allows for the passage of oxygen, then moves it to the trachea, where it is now used for respiratory functions in the body. So it is the one that is in most similarity with the stomata of the leaves because of the way it helps in exchange of gases. Trachea of the toads. Toads that have trachea do not have a distinctive trachea in particular. So it's not all toads that have distinctive trachea, that is a visible or useful trachea. So we can't include the option. And of course, trachea does not perform the function of aiding exchange. Rather, it is the site of respiration itself. So the correct answer here is C, spiracle of insects, because it aids in the exchange of gases between the insect and the atmosphere. So question number 12. Water in plants is removed as water vapor through the process of. Water in plants is removed as water vapor through the process of. Now in humans, water in humans is removed through a lot of method. For example, urinating, and one of the most visible way in which we lose water is through sweating. However, in plants, water is lost through a process called transpiration. Okay, transpiration. The process of water loss in plants is called transpiration. Let's look at the option from the beginning. We have diffusion. You should know diffusion is a method of exchange of gases, just like osmosis. Osmosis is for water in particular. Evaporation is loss of water due to temperature. Now you can notice, look at the question. Water in plants is removed as water vapor through the process of. Here we are not talking about temperature change or whatever. Let's assume the increase in temperature will lead to loss of water in plants through dash. That we could have been considering evaporation and transpiration together. However, this time around, it is not conditional. It is a question generally. Water in plants is removed as water vapor through the process of just transpiration alone. So transpiration is the process by which water is lost from the plant. And you know we have a lot of factors that aid in this. We have, for example, the guard cells, we have the stomata, and all this contribute to the loss and retaining of water in plants. For example, cactus plants that are found in desert place, they have lesser guard cells and lesser stomata. Reason is because they need to conserve their water, and so you rarely find stomata in plants such as cactus plants. Wherever for plants such as water lily, that is always inside water, it needs to be regulating the water inside of it, so there will be a lot of stomata on the leaves. So the process by which water can be removed in water lily because of excess water in the body is through transpiration. Option number D. So let's move on to the next question, question number 13. So question number 13, an example of an organ of perennation in plant is, an example of an organ of perennation in plant is. Now, what is perennation? That's the first question we should ask ourselves. Perennation means the ability of a plant to survive through certain conditions such as drought and storm. So the ability of a plant to survive through a certain condition such as drought and storms. So we have some organs of perennation, that is organs that will be preserved. For example, when there is drought, of course the plant can't conserve all its body parts. Some of them are going to die and some of them are going to live. You understand? So the part of the plants that mostly live during drought or whatsoever certain condition that is unfavorable for the plant is A, rhizome, B, seed, C, petal of a flower, D, calyx of a flower. The correct answer here is option A, the rhizome. So the rhizome is more like a crawling root. Of course, you might have seen rhizomes before in the farm if you go to farm. An example of a rhizome is ginger. Yes, the ginger you eat is a rhizome. So most of this part of the plant is conserved, so that when the conditions are now favorable again, the plant is going to regrow. So if you've seen ginger before, that's not all to ginger. When you return ginger to a favorable condition, it's going to sprout again. You're going to see leaves coming out, flowers and everything. Yes, it's an organ of perennation. It helps to preserve the generation of a plant, so you're able to replant it again when the condition is okay. So the correct answer here is option number A. Option A. Question number 14. Alternation of generation is a feature shown in dash. Alternation of generation means a change or an exchange between two different life cycles. For example, we have the gametophyte and we have the sporophyte. So for example, when it's the particular time of the plant, it's going to be using a sporophyte as a means of reproduction. When it comes to another period again, it's going to be using gametophyte as a mode of reproduction. So the process by which these changes occur from sporophyte to gametophyte, from gametophyte to sporophyte in the life cycle of an organism is what we call the alternation of generation. So the alternation of generation is a feature that is particularly shown in A, mosses, B, fungi, C, grasses, D, conifers. The correct answer here is fungi. Alternation of generation is found mostly in fungi, some protists and some other vascular plants, and we also have it in bryophytes. Okay, all right, then the correct answer is option B, fungi. Let's move on to the next